everybody. Welcome to True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. I'm Kristi Brower, here with my sister, co-host, and partner in crime, Katie Weaver. Hey, Katie.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's going okay.
Have you
Yeah.
thawed out yet from being
Oh,
frozen at a softball game?
my God. My daughter had a doubleheader today in the driving rain.
Ugh.
Two. The first game was 7 innings, the second was five in that. But she hit a home run. So, I mean, what can you do?
Okay.
Yeah, we'll
Makes
take
it
it.
kind of worth it, but
Yeah, but I was literally drenched to the bone. It was so cold. And our poor
oh
girls. It's
yeah,
so hard to play and it's so hard to pitch in. Our poor little pitchers. Oh,
oh yeah.
yeah. But that's not the
Yikes.
biggest crisis at my house.
Oh, it's not.
No, we have a bigger one
Oh no.
in the form of a prom dress.
Oh dear.
It,
Oh, this is a bad crisis.
it is. Prom is Saturday, and her dress has not arrived. We ordered it quite a while ago. Should have had enough time. The tracking number is completely useless. I emailed the company. That was completely useless. So tomorrow,
Crap.
I'm going to pull her out of school, and we're going to go to a couple of nearby towns and hopefully find a dress. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I still think it's possible that at the last minute that dress is going to surprise us, but I sure can't roll the dice on that.
No.
So y'all pray for me. I'm going to go prom dress shopping with this kid, and
Uh,
it's going to be interesting.
she's well known for being incredibly challenged when it comes to making a decision.
Mm-hmm.
She
And
just
she's
cannot choose.
very specific about what she wants.
Mm,
Yeah. Yep. So, and hopefully, the dress shops. I have no idea what this is going to cost, but it doesn't matter at this point. Plan A failed. We have to. She has to have a dress, so off we go.
she does. Yeah.
She
Oh
has
my gosh.
shoes, and they're great, but I don't know now if they'll match the damn dress. Anyway, deep breaths. It's going to work out.
All gonna be fine.
We
Nothing
ordered
like
the boutonniere
doing prom
today.
stuff.
We scheduled the spray tan for Wednesday. Remember, we still live in the Arctic where our girls are pasty white. So,
Spray tan. Oh my
there's not
gosh.
a tan amongst us. So, well, except for this face, but thanks to softball. But anyway, we'll get through this week, right? Right?
Yeah, you
Right.
will. And no matter what, it's gonna come to an end. Whatever happens is
Right.
gonna happen.
And
And
it's
then
our
it will be
baby.
over.
This is our last prom. It's our
Yeah.
last all of this stuff. So I've been kind of like, well, I can choose to be like really stressed or just enjoy it,
Yep.
And instead we
True.
get to spend a day shopping and we'll have lunch and we'll have fun and that's a good thing.
There
So
you go.
you know what? It's all going to work out
It
and we're
is.
going to find a beautiful dress. I know that's for sure. I mean, honestly, this kid could stop traffic in a gunny sack.
She really could.
It
She's
doesn't take
gorgeous.
effort to make her drop dead gorgeous. So
Mm-mm.
that's not my issue. It's only just and she's a size that's common. I mean, it shouldn't be hard to find her a dress. It's just finding one she wants to wear, especially since the one she really wanted to wear is the one that was ordered. She had her heart set on that dress. So, boo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yikes.
that's my drama. What's yours?
Let me tell you a little bit about drama. We went camping over the weekend,
Yeah.
and then this morning we went to unhook we have a little trailer we pull behind our camper van. We went to unhook it. Well, there's a handle on the hitch. It's a crank handle that cranks the hitch thing up and down, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's just gone. It was there yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and it is not there today. Uh, we think maybe someone stole it. We don't really know. I mean,
Yeah.
but we couldn't get the trailer off the van, and the van is due for an appointment at the repair place. And we spent the entire morning driving all over the city trying to buy one of those damn handles. And let me tell you
Mm-hmm.
something, you can't buy one of those handles.
Yeah.
You have to buy a whole new hitch. You cannot buy a handle like that. We just had quite a day with
That's
that.
insane.
Finally, Rhonda, who is the queen of figuring stuff out, figured out that
Mm-hmm.
you could put a tent peg through the hole where the hitch thing used to be, and then we could turn it. We turned it enough to get it off the van and get the van over for its appointment. So
Oh,
I just don't even, yeah.
Yeah. Not
That's just
good.
all I gotta say about that.
Mhm.
We put, like, 50 miles on my car today driving all over this whole area, just
Just
in
begging
town,
someone,
just
"Please."
back and forth, "Please, someone, do you have this?" No,
Yeah.
no one has it. No one has it because they don't sell them separately, they come with the hitch.
Yeah, but that's a huge pain in the ass to have to replace the whole hitch.
Yeah, I know,
Oh,
I
yeah,
100% agree, but
yeah.
anyway.
Well, Scott says he can build you a handle.
That's what
So,
I heard, and so that's fantastic, and so I'm
yeah.
gonna send him some pictures because, yeah, that was my big stressor today.
Yeah. We've all had drama. Well, for the occasion, I'm drinking out of my bitch cup.
Oh, well, good job, good idea. Seems like a good plan.
This seems like a good day for it. My
Well,
one of my scopes today, bitch scopes, which my friend Kelly that writes in my magazine in Luminous, she
yeah.
writes bitch scopes, and the bitch scope for cancer this week was basically like, you're gonna have to stand down or you'll end up in a fight. Well, and I was like, huh, that's crazy. So, and the daily dish, the daily email that I send out, the daily reading, talked about road rage and aggression today. So I had a road rage thing. It was
Oh,
me.
no.
I flipped someone off and honked at them. Well, I mean, they tried to wreck with me. So, I mean,
They
self
kinda
defense.
deserved it.
Yeah. And then at Mars's game, oh my God, there was a mom from the other team. I'm not kidding. She did not stop talking for 2 straight games.
Mm.
That was 12 innings of that woman's mouth. I was done. I finally turned to her at one point and said, "Shut up. Shut up." And I know. Now I'm that mom. Now I am that mom.
Wow,
I
what a
couldn't take
day.
anymore. When
Well,
when you're winning by 15 points and you're
mhm,
bitching about a call in the field, you should
yeah,
shut up.
you should shut up. That is true,
Mhm.
that is true.
So I had to remind her. So there you go. That's who
Well,
I
now
am
you know.
today.
Okay. Well, I think that's a fitting introduction for the case that we are going to talk about.
Ooh, isn't that the truth?
Yeah, so this is our joint case this week, so this is not a case we're reading, this is just a case we are presenting, and
Yes.
this is Fred and Rosemary West,
Mm.
and if you don't know about this freak show, buckle up, buttercup.
Charming folks that they were.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is in the UK. Um,
Mhm.
Fred West is known as an English serial killer. He committed at least 12 murders between 1967 and 1987, the majority of those with his second wife named Rosemary West. So let me
Yeah.
just give you a picture of him because looking at this picture will just tell you what kind of freaky deakies they are, man. Look at that.
Mhm.
Yikes. Let me tell you a little bit about them. So their victims, let me say this, their victims were all young women. Um, they were all around sexual gratification, rape and bondage and torture and all kinds of horrible stuff.
Yeah.
Some of the murders were their own children.
Mhm. Or friends of their
Mhm.
children.
Friends of their children. But here's the thing about Fred West. So Fred West was born on September 29th of 1941. He lived in Muchmarcle, Herefordshire.
Much
Much
Markle.
Muchmarcle,
I
guys.
love that. I wanna
Not
live
just Markle,
there.
but Muchmarcle.
Much
I
Markle. Too
I
much
don't
Markle for you.
yeah. He was too much Markle for everyone, trust
Oh,
me.
yeah.
Kinda grew up in a poor family, they were farm workers. His father was quite the disciplinarian, and, he worked on the farm. Um, Fred was always his mother's favorite and seen as his mother's boy.
Mhm.
Um, to the level of which his mother had sex with him when he was 12.
Oh, God.
And, yeah, I mean, lots of really yucky incest and, I mean, let's just say that Fred West was not a born sociopath, or psychopath, he's a made psychopath, definitely.
Mhm.
He, committed acts of bestiality with animals when he was in his early teens. He really believed that, incest was normal, because mom had sex with the boys and dad had sex with the girls in his family.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know, horrible, but then, you wonder,
Mm.
how can somebody do some of the things that Fred West did? I'll tell you how, that's how, right there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that kind of
So,
stuff just normalized and being raised in it.
yeah.
Oh God.
Now, also, he had a head injury when he was 17. He had a motorcycle accident and he fractured his skull. He was actually unconscious for 7 days, and he had to
Wow.
walk with braces for several months. He had some pretty significant brain damage, and, people who knew him before and after say that he changed quite a bit.
Hmm.
He also had another head injury 2 years later. He groped a girl on the fire escape at a youth club, and she punched him, and he fell 2 floors, which, good for her. Too
Holy
bad, frankly,
cow.
she didn't just finish the job.
Right.
But, he'd had all of this unbelievable sexual abuse as a child, then he's got 2 head injuries, and,
Yeah.
he had molested some of his sisters to the point, actually, that his 13-year-old sister, Kitty, had a baby that was his.
Oh.
You know, the thing that's weird about Fred West is that he did not grow up understanding that that was wrong. He, um he was arrested for molesting his sister, and he was very open about talking about it with the police, and he said, "Doesn't everybody do it?"
Wow.
But, frankly, growing up in the family that he did, it's kind of not that surprising that he felt that way.
Yeah.
Ultimately, no one the family wouldn't testify against him, and so he ultimately didn't get convicted of anything there. But a lot of his family disowned him at that point,
Hmm.
because apparently them doing it was okay, but not him.
Right. Well, him getting
Um,
caught.
yeah, yeah, getting caught, I guess, is the thing.
Yeah.
So, after all of that, 1962, when he was 21, he, met Rena or Catherine Bernadette Costello, his first wife. He dated her for quite a while. She was pregnant with somebody else's baby, and he married her anyway. And sorry, lost my place. So her name was Charmaine,
Mhm.
the baby that she had, that wasn't actually not his. And then, in 1964, she had a daughter named Anne Marie with him.
Mhm.
So, he's having affairs all over the place. He's fathering illegitimate children with other people. Like, the dude is not a good guy. He's not at all.
No. And it seems like there's no operable conscience here at all.
No, there isn't. He doesn't have one, um, you know, at all.
No.
In 1965, he accidentally ran over and killed a small boy in Glasgow with his van.
Oh.
Again, cleared of any wrongdoing by the police. I mean, there were a lot of chances to shut this dude down that didn't happen. He was believed to have sexually abused Charmaine. And okay, so in 1967, he killed a woman named Anne Mcfaul. She was 18 and she was 8 months pregnant with his child, and she went missing.
Oh my God.
Um, her dismembered remains were found buried in a cornfield, actually, near Muchmarkle. Her arms and legs had been cut off, and her finger bones were missing.
Mhm.
It appears that her unborn child had been cut from her womb after she was killed, also.
Oh God.
Yeah. So things are getting rocky for Rena with Fred, as they do when he's murdering people and
Sleeping with
molesting her
everyone and
children
yeah.
and having tons of affairs and stuff.
Yeah. You'd think at some point someone might, have had enough of that shit.
Yeah. So she would sometimes leave him for a while, and she tended to leave the kids with him when she would take off and leave him because he was clearly,
Oh,
fit to be caring for these children.
yikes.
Um, since he didn't have anyone to care for the kids, he would just put them in foster care for a while until she came back. Just yikes. Okay. So then,
And then they'd let them have them back.
yeah, then they'd let them have them back. So Fred met Rosemary Letts in 1969. This is his second wife. Um, she was really flattered by his attention, and she had grown up in all kinds of with all kinds of incest and all
Yeah.
kinds of abuse and stuff herself. And so there was something about him, I think, that just seemed familiar to her.
Wasn't she quite a bit younger than him?
Yes. Yes, she was. So Rose's parents didn't want her to have anything to do with him because she was younger. He, you know, didn't really have anything to offer her. Also, she was 15 at the
Yeah.
time. Social services got involved at the point. The parents actually called social services because one of the problems was not only was she having a relationship with him, but when she would go with him, she was also working as a prostitute out of his caravan. As you do. I don't know.
Sure.
So she went to a home for troubled teenagers in 1969 to try to get her away from them.
Mhm.
But she came home on weekends, and she, of course, took off to visit Fred whenever that happened. On her 16th birthday, she left the home for troubled teens to go back to her parents. Her at the time, Fred was in jail for theft and unpaid fines. When he got out of jail, Rose left, and I think 16 is the age of consent
Mm.
in the UK. So she, as soon as he got out of prison or jail, she left and went and to live with Fred.
Sure.
Um, so at this point, then he also got his daughters, Anna Marie and Charmaine, out of social services because they were back in foster care.
Oh.
Because Rena was off somewhere again. She might have been dead
Mhm.
by this point. I don't know. He killed her, but it was oh no, it was later. She would just come and go. That's right. He killed her in 1971. But she would just come and go, and he would either have the kids or he would just, put them in foster care and stuff like that. Just crazy, crazy stuff.
It's so crazy that it was allowed,
Mhm.
you
Yeah,
know?
it is that he could
And
just
then he
drop
was
them
just
off.
allowed to be like, "Okay, I'm ready to take them back now. Okay,
Yeah.
here you go." These poor little girls.
I know. They never had a chance in hell.
No.
Um so in February of 1970, Bill Letts, who was Rosemary's dad, tried one more time to get her away from Fred.
Mhm.
They found out she was pregnant. She was placed into care for teenagers again. Um, the plan was she was going to terminate her pregnancy and return to her family. Instead, of course, she ran off with Fred. And so at that point, they
Mhm.
just wrote her off, said never set foot in her house again.
Mm, not good.
No, no. So in October of that year, Rose gave birth to their daughter named Heather Ann. Um, wow. There are questions about whether Fred it was actually Heather's father because it's very possible that Bill Letts could have been Heather's father.
Oh
So,
my god.
this is just the lion feeding the young
Yeah.
girl to the bear. I don't know. I don't this is a terrible analogy, but something like that. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So after Heather was born, Fred went to prison again, this time for stealing car tires. And he was in jail for almost a year. oh, no, I guess it was a 6.5 month sentence, and so while he was in prison, Rose has the 3 girls now, Charmaine, Anna Marie, and Heather, and they're now being told to call Rose their mother.
Mhm.
Um, you know, Rose didn't have any idea how to be a mom, and she mostly just beat the kids and was difficult with them and, was really hard on them and stuff because she didn't know how to be a parent. I mean, she was a kid and had been
Yeah,
raised with lots of terrible abuse herself.
right. She didn't know what she was doing.
No. Charmaine at that time had received a bunch of treatment for injuries and stuff like that.
Oh, poor Charmaine.
Yeah,
She went through so much.
she did. Rose is believed to have killed Charmaine shortly before Fred got out of prison in June of 1971.
Oh,
She just couldn't handle her, and Charmaine just sort of disappeared. They did eventually find her body later after, all of
right.
this
And
went
she was
down.
8, right? She was
She
8
was
years
8.
old.
Yep, she was 8. Apparently, her body was initially stowed in the coal cellar of their house until Fred came out of prison, and then he buried her body in the yard.
Mhm.
Which became a real habit for him to bury bodies in the yard of
Yeah.
wherever they lived.
Mhm.
So then Rena West passed away or went missing, more went missing.
Yeah.
Of course, she and Fred were sort of still married, but he's living with Rose and she's taking care of the kids. And um, she came to kind of have a fight with Fred again about custody of the kids and to demand the custody of her daughters,
Well, was
which,
she not wondering where the hell Charmaine was?
you would think she was, but I'm not sure she actually knew. She was there to demand custody of her daughters, and so he strangled her, and, um, of course, he sexually assaulted her because that's just what he did.
Yeah.
He dismembered her, and he buried her, close to a cluster of trees, at Yew Tree Coppice at Letterbox Field, which is about a mile from Muchmarkel. So then, in 1972, Fred and Rosemary finally get married. And then so Rose starts having kids, they have a bunch of kids.
Mhm.
And the whole time that they're having children, Rose is also working as a prostitute right out of their house. Her services
Oh,
are advertised in a local magazine.
oh my god.
Yeah. And Fred was completely aware of it, totally, supported it.
Mhm.
Um She also basically just kind of would have sex with whoever. They had lodgers also. Like, can you imagine this
Sure
house?
they
They've got
oh,
little kids. She's running a prostitution, room in the house. Then they also have lodgers, and she was known basically to just have sex with any of them. Um, they both had a really serious sex addiction and
mhm.
problems with sex. Fred and Rosemary both
Yeah.
did. Um, Rose liked to suffocate people and suffocate partners and liked to cause
Oh.
pain and fear. She was all about, being, she was all about sadism.
Mhm.
So there was quite a bit of domestic violence in the situation. The kids were basically slaves to the household chores, and they would have severe punishment if they did not do the things that they were supposed to do. And the kids were pretty much afraid of Rose and Fred. And both Rose and Fred had a tendency to really just pop off and sometimes would just beat the kids for no reason just because they just
Yeah.
would get neither one of them had good control over themselves, and they both really liked to inflict pain on people.
Yeah.
Heather and her younger brother Stephen ran away from home at one point. They were, like, homeless, sleeping in fields and staying with friends and stuff. They got returned to home and got beat severely for,
Oh.
what had gone on there.
Like,
Oh my
it
gosh.
kills me that nobody ever helped these kids.
Right? Why didn't anybody notice?
Right.
They were in local hospitals in, like, emergency rooms with injuries. The West children were
Mhm.
31 times from 1972 to 1992.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah, so lots of abuse of the
Besides
kids.
vanishing children.
Right, besides children who just disappeared.
Mhm.
So let's talk about the murders. I mean, we could go on and on and on about what terrible people they are, but let's talk about the murders that,
Yeah.
obviously Charmaine and Rena.
Yeah.
Then,
Well, and Anne Mcfaul.
yeah, and Anne Mcfaul. Okay. Yeah, like where do we begin? So
Yeah.
then, in 1973, they murdered a 19-year-old girl named Linda Go. She had affairs with some of the lodgers that lived with the Wests, and, they didn't like her, and they killed her. They dismembered her body, and, let's see, I believe she was one that was buried in the backyard. Some of them
Yeah.
were, under concrete in the basement of the house, and some of them were buried in the backyard of the house.
Okay.
Okay, so she was found in the cellar
Linda
at the
was.
house at 25 Cromwell Street, which is where a lot of the bodies were found.
Yeah.
Um, so 5 of the victims were buried in the cellar at Cromwell Street. This was between 1973 and 1975. So Carol Ann Cooper was one of them. She was abducted on November 10th of 1973. She lived in a children's home in Worcester,
Mhm.
and she was abducted after being out with her boyfriend for an evening with her boyfriend. To a movie with her
Mhm.
boyfriend. Let's see, she was suspended from the wooden beams of the cellar and abused before she was murdered.
Oh.
She died from strangulation, um, and several of her bones were, found in this pit beneath the garage where there had been, then concrete put over the top.
Mhm.
Um, so many of them were let's see who else.
Let's see. Well, Lucy Perrington
Yes.
or Partington, sorry. She was also killed in 73. She was
Mhm.
a university student from
Right.
Cheltenham.
Yeah. And then, Shirley Robinson, and she was one of their lodgers.
Mhm.
Um, and this
Oh,
was
and
in
she was
19
pregnant too, right?
yeah, yeah. She was pregnant with, Fred's baby.
Mhm.
Um, so Rose got really angry with her and resentful with her.
Mhm.
They never really so when the Wests were actually, um, arrested and this all started coming out, Fred took all of the blame and said, "This was all me, it wasn't Rose.
Yeah.
She didn't do anything."
Yeah.
Except in talking with Rose and looking at Rose's history and stuff, it seemed pretty obvious that some of it was in fact Rose.
Mhm.
And, um, there were a lot of problems with trying to, uh, charge Rose because she just, she wouldn't talk at all.
Yeah.
Rose is a tremendously difficult person,
Yeah.
and she doesn't trust the police at all. She won't talk to them at all. She tells them to just fuck off, basically. Like, she just wouldn't have anything to do with any of them.
Mhm.
But where this all kind of fell apart is when their daughter Heather disappeared. And there were a lot of concerns about Heather because she just disappeared.
Yeah.
And there were some, there were questions about where did she go?
Mhm.
And that's when they really were first looking into them, trying to
Yeah.
figure out what was going on.
Yeah. Someone noticed that one of their kids was missing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But this wasn't,
So
I mean, she didn't go missing until 1987, Heather.
right, right,
So this is 20 years into their killing spree.
right, right. And so in May of 1992 is when um okay, so their daughter Louise um had been assaulted by dad and was partially strangled. Um Louise told Rose that her dad had raped her, and Rose said, "Oh, well, you were asking for it."
Oh.
Apparently she was raped several more times over the next few days, and Louise finally told a friend what was happening to her and what her dad was doing.
Mhm.
And that friend told her mother in August of 1992. So on in the 6th of August of 1992, police came and they searched the West household, which is a freaking house of horrors, you guys.
Yeah.
They ultimately ended up tearing it down trying to find bodies.
Mhm.
Apparently, they came in and said they were looking for some stolen property because they did not want to, tip them off that they knew what was going on.
Yeah.
So they found all kinds of, homemade pornography. Um, there was supposedly a video of Fred sexually assaulting Louise, but they did not find that. But they did do some really specific kinds of, interrogation of some of the kids,
Mhm.
and they got a lot of information that they needed there. So all the kids went to foster care
Yeah.
immediately, and they were
Finally.
yeah,
Frickin'
finally,
finally.
way too late for them. And, they were, examined medically and, they all had signs of physical and sexual abuse.
Mhm.
They all said that their mother had been the one to do most of the physical abuse.
Mhm.
And then they talked about their sister Heather, who had been missing for a long time. And they
Mhm.
told a joke. One of them told a joke that was always
Mhm.
told in their household, which was, "You better be good or you're gonna end up buried under the patio like your sister Heather."
Yeah.
And turns out Heather was missing, you guys.
Mhm.
So police jump full bore into this and are absolutely stunned, sickened, horrified by the stuff that they're finding.
Oh, yeah. Can you imagine?
It's unbelievable. So they've charged Fred with 3 counts of rape, and they've charged Rose as an accomplice, and she's also charged with child cruelty, and obstructing the police because the kids are saying she's the one that really was physically abusive with
Yeah.
them. So they start being asked, like, "Hey, your daughter Heather, where is she?" Um, and Fred claimed that she was alive and well and supporting herself via prostitution.
Mhm.
Rose,
As one does. I mean,
as you do in this family, clearly,
mhm.
Rose just refused to say anything. And then a few days later, she could remember now that her daughter left on her own, because she was a lesbian, and her mom didn't want the kids to know because they were trying to protect her from the kids from that.
Oh, yes.
Yes, because protecting the kids was definitely what these
Yes.
idiots did.
And God forbid the kids be exposed to a lesbian.
Right. So Rose says she gave Heather 600 pounds and asked her to leave, and that and this was several years ago, and that they'd had some phone contact and, you know,
Mhm.
whatever, right?
Right.
So Fred is being held on awaiting trial. Rose was released. She was granted bail, but she couldn't have contact with any of her kids or anything.
Mhm.
Um, so the one older daughter, Anna Marie, really the oldest living daughter, finally contacted the police and gave a really detailed statement about what she had been through
Mhm.
in this family, about the physical, mental, and sexual abuse at the hands of Fred and Rose. She did agree to testify against both of them.
Mhm.
She's also said, "By the way, I've been trying to find my mother, Rena, and my half sisters, Charmaine and Heather, for years, and they are missing. I cannot find them."
Yeah.
And so, for the first time, I feel like there was an actual light shining both on Fred and Rose
Yeah.
about the things that they had done, you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
So then they get a search warrant for okay, so they're initially acquitted of
Right.
everything because
'Cause
what
why?
the hell, right?
Yeah.
But they did leave the kids in foster care and, you know, they're still kinda keeping an eye on them because 'cause they're like, "What the hell is going on here?" Right?
Yeah.
So
But how
then
they're acquitted, it's just it slays me.
the British court system is so much different, it's hard to understand all of it, but, you
Mhm.
know, for whatever reason, they were acquitted initially.
Yeah.
So then they come back and they start, um, let's see. So Fred goes to the police and he decides he's gonna confess. After all this,
Yeah. This kills me.
this is so weird.
This kills me that he
He
suddenly decides to do this.
yeah, like, all of a sudden, it's all too much for him, which, I mean, the dude's got a high tolerance for this horrible stuff. So
Mhm.
he formally admits to the police that he did kill Heather. He
Yeah.
says he strangled her in a fit of rage and then dismembered her on in the ground floor bathroom of their house.
Yeah.
Um, he says he put her body in a trash can while he waited for a chance to dig her grave,
Mhm.
and he swore up and down that Rose had no knowledge of this at all.
Yeah.
That he had done this when she was busy with one of her clients, um,
Mhm.
and the reason that they hadn't found her one of the reasons that they were acquitted initially is because they couldn't find Heather's body. Well, it's
Yeah.
because he lied about where her body was.
Yeah.
Why they didn't just dig up that whole fricking garden to begin with, I do not know.
Right?
But, they said, "This is why" he said, "This is why I haven't found her. You were looking in the wrong place." So then he says he'll go to the house and he'll point out where she was.
Yeah.
And so then, okay, if you guys have not watched the television show Appropriate Adult, I think it's a BBC production. It's like 3 episodes. Please do. It is crazy. Okay, so it is they assign Fred West an appropriate adult, and I think in the US that's kinda like a guardian ad litem. Like, they're not
Mhm.
sure that Fred is, maybe he's mentally retarded or, maybe he's got some
Mhm.
issues that he might need, not only his attorney, but just another person. So an appropriate
Mhm.
adult is trained. Janet Leach was his appropriate adult, and she
Mhm.
was in college to be a social worker, and she volunteered and went through this training to be an appropriate adult, basically
Yeah.
to make sure that his rights are being protected.
Mhm.
And so if you please watch Appropriate Adult because it's insane, what she goes through with him through this whole
Yeah.
thing. he tells her some things that she cannot say because it's like talking to a counselor or a social worker, like, she
Right.
can't tell the police. So he tells her some things, like, about where other indicates other places where bodies are in the yard where he hasn't told them yet and all this stuff.
Mhm.
And so she spends quite a bit of time working to get him to just tell the truth.
Uh-huh.
And she does actually get him to tell a lot.
Yeah.
So they do find a human thigh bone, in the garden after when he takes him there and shows him where, um, where to look.
Right, but
So
it's in a spot where he tells them you don't need to look.
I know. It's still this big stupid
Yeah,
game, right?
yeah. He says, "Don't
Well,
dig over there. There's nothing over there."
yeah,
So
there's
they
nothing
dig
over
over
there.
there and they pull up a thigh bone.
Yeah. Well, so actually what they do is they discover there's a whole bunch of human remains
Yeah,
in some trash bags. So I think at this point is when they decide maybe they should just dig up the whole damn garden, which why they didn't do that before, I do not know.
yeah.
They determine that they are of a young woman. There are
Mhm.
some bones missing because he seems to like to keep kneecaps and fingers. Gross. Um, the
Yeah.
also it appeared that her fingernails had been torn out,
Yep.
which is torture.
Yep.
So the body's finally identified as being Heather West. So they finally say, okay, we've got Heather West.
Yeah.
So they discover 3 sets of remains in the garden.
Mhm.
And, they're still, like, interviewing him and trying to figure out what the hell and how many people did he really kill? Where's
Mhm.
Rena? Where's Charmaine? Um,
Yeah.
and so then really at the behest of poor poor Janet. Oh my god, I cannot imagine. Poor Janet Leach, I can't imagine being the appropriate adult in this situation,
He probably quit after this.
right? So she works with him and his, um, solicitor for him to write um, formal statement that says, "I, Frederick West, authorize my solicitor, Howard Ogden, to advise Superintendent Bennett that I wish to admit a further approximate 9 killings, expressly Charmaine, Rena, Linda Go, and others to be identified."
Yeah.
So the police are like,
Holy
"Holy
shit.
shit, there's at
Yeah.
least 9 more bodies." So he finally, and this is the part where Fred is so creepy and calm and deadpan through this whole thing, where he explains that there are 5 bodies in his cellar that are under, concrete. There's another body under the ground floor bathroom.
Mhm.
Um, so, they start looking for them, and he tells all these stories about who they are and where they came from and whatever.
Yeah.
He also continues to say that, Rose had nothing to do with any of this and that she didn't know.
Rose
You know,
had no
all
idea that all these people were being murdered and buried in her house.
right.
None.
So they do go and they start, jackhammering up the concrete and they find 6 bodies buried in various places under the house.
Yeah.
Um, but still they haven't found everybody, and that's
Yeah.
where some of the big questions still lie.
Yeah.
Fred still continues to insist that his wife did not know about any of these.
Yeah.
But Rose was arrested again, on charges of rape of an 11-year-old girl and assault of an 8-year-old boy.
Mhm.
And she was transferred to Puckle Church Prison. I don't know how you
Oh.
take any of these names seriously, but so she's put in the
Buckle church.
maximum security wing, like, "Okay, we're
Yeah.
finally figuring this out." And they start questioning her about, like, Heather, hello, her daughter, and Linda Go, and they did actually charge her with Linda Go's murder. And then in May, Fred and Rose were charged jointly with 5 counts of murder,
Yeah.
and all Rose would say was, "I'm innocent." And that's all she said pretty
Mhm.
much anytime. She
Yeah.
didn't say anything.
Yeah.
So Fred did finally confess to Rena and Charmaine and to Anne Mcfaul's remains. But
Mhm.
he says he didn't kill her, but he knows where she's buried.
Yeah.
Again, why?
Yeah.
At this point, what you gotta lose?
Right.
So he's put in a prison in Birmingham, and he's on really strict suicide watch because he was a mess. Rose was like this stoic, I'm innocent, and he's like
Yeah.
this big emotional breakdown kind of.
Yeah.
Um, so let's see, on the 30th of June of 1994, he was charged with 11 murders and Rose was charged with 9. This was the first time that they had seen each other, so they're standing next to each other in court.
Mhm.
Um, he, like, put his hand on her shoulder, and she winced and pulled away from him,
Yeah.
and then they were both, of course, held on remand, and this was kind of
Yeah.
a big turning point for him when he realized that Rose was nope, she was
Yeah.
not on his team anymore.
Yeah. Well, when the police tried to take him out of the courtroom, he tried to get away from them and make a lunge back towards trying to like embrace her or something, and she,
Yeah.
shied away from him. Yeah, she was putting on quite the show. Yeah.
Yeah, she definitely was, and she was letting him know exactly what, um, she
Yeah.
thought. So he was getting more and more depressed, and it got really much worse after she had rejected him in court,
Mhm.
and he wrote her letters, she wouldn't write back.
Yeah.
He was pleading with the kids to let Rose know, that he loved her and all this stuff, and she, at this point, was pretty much like, "Eh, I'm done with this."
Yeah.
So they're
Yeah.
so vindictive. So what he does is
Yeah.
he withdraws all of his confessions
Yep.
of having acted alone, and he accuses Rose of being involved in all of the murders that he'd been charged in,
Yes.
except for Anne Mcfaul.
Mhm.
But he said Rena, his first wife, did that one
Oh, sure
because,
she did. Yeah.
of course she did, right?
Why wouldn't he have two murderous wives? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, of course. Well, I don't know. If anyone could, it would be him.
Yeah.
So on the 1st of January of 1995, he killed himself.
Yeah. Of course he
He
did.
is he asphyxiated himself. He could not take responsibility for this. He just couldn't
No.
do it. Emotionally, he just wasn't there.
Mhm.
At the bottom of his suicide note in his cell, he'd written, "In loving memory, Fred West, Rose West, rest in peace where no shadow falls. In perfect peace, he waits for Rose, his wife."
Gross. Freaking weirdo.
Yeah.
In loving memory?
Yeah,
No.
loving memory.
Oh.
She's, still alive, you idiot. Yeah. So, Rose, of course, pleads not guilty to all these charges,
Mhm.
because they finally figure out that she killed Charmaine Weston and added it, so she had 10
Yeah.
charges. Let's see.
Yeah.
So, she actually goes through a full trial, which Fred never did,
Right.
and, they basically just said everything was Fred's fault. Fred did all the murders. Fred turned Rose into the bad person she had become, and all the terrible things that she'd done was because of him, and
Yeah.
none of it was really her fault. And,
Mhm.
I mean, y okay, definitely there was some culpability on his part,
Yeah.
but, I mean, she really did some absolutely terrible things.
Yeah.
That blaming Fred, defense did not work,
No. Oh, no, because
and
finally the authorities want their pound of flesh for this stuff,
they
for
do.
lack of a better term,
Right.
you know?
Somebody has got to take responsibility here, right?
Yeah.
And so she was unanimously convicted of all 10 murders,
Mhm.
and she was sentenced to life in prison and that she would never be paroled.
Yeah.
and she's now in HM Prison Newhall, and she continues to say that she is innocent, which
Jesus.
is just wild.
Yeah.
But that, I have to say for her, at least she's doing her time. I mean, Fred just killed
Yeah.
himself and got it over with.
Yeah. He just
Uh,
got away.
yeah,
They even had a little service for him.
yeah, they
He
did.
was cremated. They had a 5-minute service. 4 family members attended, and then his ashes were put out to sea.
Wow.
That is better than he deserved.
It is. It's much better than he deserved, absolutely. But there's just something, I don't know, it's what it is about these 2. I mean, talk about match made in hell. Oh,
Yeah.
worst combination ever.
All of those kids. God, it just
Oh
makes
my
me
gosh.
sick to think the hell those kids were raised in.
Yeah, the ones who managed to survive.
Yeah, to live through it.
Yeah, awful. Well, that is Fred and Rose West, and if you don't know about them,
Hmm.
now you do, whether you want to or not. Um, but definitely go watch appropriate adult.
Yeah.
Fred it is a dramatization, however, it is done based in fact, and Fred
Yeah.
is so very matter of fact
Mm.
about all of these murders. "Well, yeah, I did. I did. I killed her. I strangled her, and then I cut her up, and then I did this, and I did that," and it's all just completely like you're talking about what you had for dinner.
Hmm.
I mean, you talk about psychopath.
Yeah.
It's just stunning. So, anyway, watch that if you're interested in this case.
Yeah.
But that's Fred and Rose West, you guys. Yikes.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is our joint case this week. Coming
Yeah.
up next tomorrow on Wednesday is our MMIW case.
Yeah.
We have also on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, we have our case updates, which we have some really good updates for you guys.
Hmm.
So that's going to be a fun one. Thursday night is the psychic show at 7 p.m. also.
Yep.
And then, of course, there'll probably be some pop-ups this weekend. So,
Yeah.
we're always trying to bring you new stuff, you guys.
Yeah. Well, and keep an
So,
eye on Patreon. We'll be releasing on Patreon a little bit later this week.
yeah,
Instant Karma.
instant karma.
About 6 times where criminals met some instant karma as soon as they did something stupid happened to them.
Yes. So you don't want to miss that because, frankly, don't we all want to see some instant karma for
It's
criminals?
pretty
And so
hilarious.
it is bound to be pretty funny. So watch for that over on Patreon.
Yeah.
And you guys know it. We are True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. Thanks for being here.
Take care.